question number 1 involves the anaSuperTrend indicator. The use of the anaSuperTrend is kind of the opposite of its normal intended use. So in this particular case, a trade is going to be taken against the anaSuperTrend. So so for example, like there'd be a long signal here, and the profit would be taken at the anaSuperTrend. So for example, right there. So the question is about, how can we exit a trade as soon as actually, to be more specific, as soon as the bid or ask touches the indicator, right? So as soon as the bid or ask touches the anaSuperTrend indicator, then that's wanted as a exit condition to exit the trade, and in this case, it'll be to exit hopefully with a profit, right? So instead of setting profit targets, this trader wants to use an exit signal to take the profits, and exit as soon as the bid or ask touches the indicator. Right. So, all right. So that's going to be our first question to start the workshop off with. All right. So let's get BloodHound open, and then let's get the file name going. All right. There's today's file name, and let's see. I'm going to just start working on the logic board here, and let's start a new logic template. So, all right. All right, so we're going to generate an exit signal. So at the, anaSuperTrend touch. Let's see here. Let's be more specific. Let's see here. So deciding what solver I want to use. So let's see. Price, or the bid or ask just needs to touch the anaSuperTrend. So a crossover, let's see, actually, yes, a crossover would work. And that would generate a cleaner signal as well. Yeah. So, okay, yeah, so I'm going to try the crossover first here. So let's plug this in. All right, and let's give this a name here. All right, so there we go. And all right, so input A is going to be price. Let me just open this up a little bit more. There we go. So input A, that's going to be price. We're going to set that to price. And then input B, we're going to change this to the anaSuperTrend here in a moment. But let's set up the price here. All right, so let's say, so again, so if we're long, right, so the situation is that we'd be in a long trade going against the anaSuperTrend, and so we want to generate an exit signal. So exit signals are going to be in the opposite direction of the trade, right? So so the trade would be long, so we want to generate a short signal at this point, right? So let's see here, I'll use a little triangle there. So we want to generate a short signal for that exit condition there. Let's see, so the shorts are going to be looking at the ask, right? Because the ask is above the bid. And so therefore the longs would be opposite. So the longs are going to be looking at the bid for this. All right. Yeah, I think that's correct. We'll find out here in a moment. All right, next let's set up our indicator here. So we just need to go find the anaSuperTrend. And there we go, anaSuperTrend on there. And I'm just going to use the default settings. And we want to know when price is touching the stop dots or the stop line, either one. They're both the same. So that should be good. And so, you know, the precise question is the bidder ask just needs to touch it. So it doesn't need to cross it, right? To cross it means the bidder ask has to go beyond the line, but it just needs to touch. So we have this setting here in the crossover solver that says crossovers occur when equal, right? So if the bidder ask touches it, that means it would be equal. So, so we want to set this to true, like so. All right, and that should do it. Let's see. Now, since we're using bid and ask data, right, this is only going to work in real time, right, because NinjaTrader does not store bid and ask data. So bid and ask data is only available in real time for NinjaTrader. So let's see here. What I will need to do, let's close this up. Yeah, I'm going to have to change data feeds here. So let's disconnect from live. And let's connect to our simulated data feed. That way we can test this out without having to wait for the market to work with us. So let's see here. I'm on a 1 minute chart. Yeah, for the sake of time, let me change this to like a range chart for now. Okay, there we go, range chart. And so let's see, we need to move the market up. So we're going to pretend like we're in a long trade here. All right, so as soon as the bidder ask gets up there and touches 47.36. Oh, and that's right, as soon as it touches, there's one other setting here we need to change. Let me pull the market back down here. Just hold on a sec. I forgot there's one other setting we need to change to make this happen. Because right now, BloodHound is set to calculate on bar to close. Right, so we'd have to wait for the bar to close in order to get that exit signal. But touching, you know, getting a signal, getting an exit signal as soon as price touches, right, that's working on a live bar. So we do need to change the setting for BloodHound here. So let's go back into our indicator list, and we need to select BloodHound, and of course, so in order to get things in order to get indicators to operate in real time, we need to set this calculate on bar close to false. There we go. Okay, now let me move the market up just a little bit. The one thing that we don't know is the exact price of the anaSuperTrend. So keep in mind, NinjaTrader rounds your indicators off to 2 decimal places, or it rounds them off to whatever the instrument decimal place is. You know, so this anaSuperTrend could be, you know, 0.367, you know, something like that. So even though it may look like price is touching, so their price is touching, but price may need to go a little higher to actually touch the anaSuperTrend, since NinjaTrader's rounding it off a little bit. And there we go. So now we can see we did just we're getting that crossover signal there. And let me see. I'm going to make sure I've got the bid and ask correct here. So let me, let's pull up level 2. And all right, yeah, so the ask is above the bid. Yeah, okay, good. All right. So let's see. Let's try this one more time. So let me pull the market down now. All right. So when the bid or ask gets down here to the anaSuperTrend, we will see a short exit signal here. All right, there we go. So we can see the bid and ask on the control center as well now. Good. All right, let's see here. So the ask is at 21. Yep, there we go. So, all right. Yep, there's ours. We could see our signals were, a short signal was flashing on and off right as the bid and ask was coming down here. Let's see. I'm going to test this one more time. It seemed like those signals were coming in a little late. So let me try this one more time. Move the market back up. And I'm just going to double check the BloodHound settings. All right, come on, open up. There we go. Oh, I do have them backwards. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so let's switch these around here. There we go. All right, that should. Now let's test that out here. All right, almost there. Okay, slow the trend down a little bit, and there we go. There we go, that's a lot better. Now we're getting signals popping up a little sooner now that we had the bid and ask selected correctly. Here, let me pull the market down here. Oh, perfect. Okay, so let's pull the market up just a tad bit. Yeah, there we go. So we can see as soon as, even before the last price had touched the anaSuperTrend. Let me pull the market back down here. We can see where we're getting the signal even before the last price had touched the anaSuperTrend, because remember, we're just looking for the bid or ask, so the last price doesn't even need to touch the SuperTrend. It's just the bid or ask, right? So price is below right now. Yeah, price is below the anaSuperTrend, but we're still getting a signal once in a while. And that's when the bid or ask goes up there and touches it. So, okay, good. So that does it for that question there. So again, just to summarize, when you need to analyze, bid and ask, which are which is real-time data, you have to have your calculator bar close set to true. I'm sorry, wrong one. Let's go down to BloodHound here. There we go. So BloodHound, we need to have, let's see, where did it go? There it is. Calculator bar close set to false, so you can analyze real-time data, versus when the bar closes. So set that to false. And again, if we take a look at the solver, let's pull this out of the way. And so for a long signal here, right? So for a long, right, we're looking at the ask price, which is on top of the bid price. And then for a short, we'd be using the bid price, which would be at the bottom down here for these short exit signals, which would exit along oh, you know what? Hold on a sec. My signals are backwards. So the signals are backwards. So you know what? I did have it right the first time. Hold on. Let me reverse these again, and we actually need to change the output here. So we're going to use for the output, we're going to use crosses against direction. There, we're going to set that to 1. There we go. So now you can see now our signals are backwards here. So remember, again, the question is about taking a trade into the anaSuperTrend, kind of the opposite way that the anaSuperTrend's used. So we'd be in a long trade here, and so we want a short signal as our exit signal to get out of this long trade here. So all right, so let me pull the market down. We'll do one last test here. Let's do one more test. All right, so as prices coming down, we're going to be using the bid price. We're going to be checking to see if the bid price touches our anaSuperTrend. Oop. Slow this down a little bit. There we go. There we go. Okay. So excellent. So we can see, you know, the last price doesn't quite, well, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes, but you can see that, there you go. The last price is just barely touching the anaSuperTrend, but the bid, you know, what we're concerned about is, you know, whether or not the bid is touching the anaSuperTrend there. So it's, yeah, it's, there we go. All right, so now it looks there. Now, so all right, so now we have it set up correctly here. So for the outputs, we wanted to use crosses against direction there because we wanted to reverse our signals because they're being used as exit signals, so they need to be reversed there. Yep, and we needed to have crosses occur when equal. We had to have that set to true, so that means we get a crossover when price just touches the anaSuperTrend. It doesn't actually have to cross it. And then it's just a matter of getting our bid and ask prices set in here correctly. So, all right, so that concludes that. So let's see, Jeff is asking, is the point of this to generate an earlier signal? It's my understanding that the point is just to generate an exit signal as soon as possible. Well, to generate, I would say, what would be a more accurate way of saying that? To generate an exit signal as soon as any price touches the anaSuperTrend, just to guarantee an exit. So basically it's like saying, you know, when price gets close enough, I want a guaranteed exit signal. So using the bid and ask prices, right, that's basically, yeah, using the bid and ask prices, it's kind of a way of saying, you know, as soon as price gets close enough, let's just take the profits right then and there instead of waiting for the last price, because, you know, who knows, maybe the last price may not quite touch the anaSuperTrend in some situations. So if you use the bid or ask, you know, at least the bid or ask got there, even though a trade may not have actually traded at the anaSuperTrend, but the bid and ask market prices got there. So yeah, it's kind of a little earlier way of doing that. You know, I guess there's I mean, there's a couple of ways you could answer this as well. You know, just to kind of expand upon it. We could take a we could have used a comparison solver, or not to answer the way this. I couldn't use a comparison solver to answer the question as it was asked, but another solution, you know, to using this crossover with the bid and ask, another solution could be that you could use the comparison. And let me get this, open this up a little bit more. So we could, use the comparison, just use price, and we could just, look at the closing price and just say, you know what, if the closing price gets within a half a tick of our indicator here. So let's, I guess let's go ahead and set this up. So we'll create kind of two alternate ways to achieve the same thing. There it is. All right, and now the last thing to do is to set up our outputs. And so what we can use for with the comparison solver, we can use this A equals B within half a tick for both the long and short there. Yeah, that'll do it as well. So yeah, it's kind of another way of doing it. Yep. But again, no matter which solver you use, you will always have to have BloodHound with, you're always going to have BloodHound set to this calculate on bar close false. It's the only way you can analyze, real-time price touching an indicator. It's the only way that could be done with NinjaTrader. So there's no mixing and matching there. So yeah, looks like we got all the questions answered on this. So let's close this out, and I'm going to change BloodHound back to calculate on bar close true. All right, for this next question, this is just going to be answered on historical data. So I'll just reconnect to live data here, and let's pull up the question. All right, so this next question's definitely going to be a little more complicated, a little more advanced here and involved. So there's two different kind of operating states to this question here. So the first part is, if an indicator goes long, in a long situation, I guess, then what's wanted is to block signals after an hour. So we want to block signals after an hour. This probably should be block signals for an hour, not after an hour. I think that was just probably a misspoken. Otherwise, both of these statements would be the same here. So when the indicator's in a long state, we want to block signals for an hour, but we want to allow signals during the first hour when the indicator goes short. Right? So if the indicator is short, we're going to allow signals for an hour. But if the indicator is long, then we're going to block signals for an hour. So, all right. So what I'm going to use, the MACD to kind of substitute for this indicator going long or going short. And then I'm also going to need something that generates signals that we're blocking here. All right, so it's going to be multi parts to this. Sounds like Brian's agreeing with me, so that this should be blocked signals for an hour if the indicator's long, but do the opposite. We want to allow signals if the indicator goes short. Okay, so let's get BloodHound up and running, and I'm going to start working on the logic board. And let's see here, a name for this. Okay, so there we go. A little bit of a lengthy name, but this kind of requires it. I need a couple of things to work with. So okay, so I'm going to just I'm going to use a inflection solver just to generate a bunch of signals. So these will be the source signals that we're going to block or allow here, right? So all right, I'll just call this source signals, and it's just simply going to be something like this, right? So there we go. We got a ton of signals here, to work with that we're going to be blocking or allowing here. So it's simply just if the bar reverses up, we're going to get a long signal. If the bar reverses back down, then we get a short signal, right? So this is just simply a bar reversal kind of signal. Gives you plenty to operate. So, all right. So now to the main question here. So the first thing we need to figure out is, is the indicator going long or is the indicator going short? So to do that, in this particular case, with the MACD or any kind of indicator similar to a MACD, where it's kind of oscillating, positive or negative, then I'm going to use a crossover solver for this. And so let's see, this is going to be the MACD crossing over the 0 line. So, all right, input A, that's going to be our MACD. And I'm actually using a really slow MACD. Let's see if I remember correctly. I think I did 25 and 50. So I'm using a really slow MACD because in the question was stated that the indicator in question can stay long or short for about a 2-hour period on average. So this indicator being used is a really slow indicator. So I slowed the MACD down a lot as well. So I'm using 25 and 50 there. All right, so we got the MACD in there with our 25 and 50 settings. Now B, this isn't used all that often, but we're going to use a fixed value. So we're checking to see if the MACD crosses the 0 line, and the 0 line is considered a fixed value, right? So the value is 0. So we're checking to see, is the MACD crossing over 0, the 0 line? So, and as we take a look at our chart, there we go. We can see a bunch of crossovers as the MACD crosses that 0 line, the dashed white line there. So, okay, so that's going to tell us whether or not our indicator, whether it went long or whether it went short. All right, so let's see. So we want to block signals for an hour if it's long. All right, so I'm going to basically split the signals into kind of a long stream and a short stream here. So to do that, let's see. I'm going to use the inverter solver for that. We're not going to do any inverting, but I'm just going to use the inverter solver. And since I am interested in the long signals, what I'm going to do is, you can see this, we have this enable option. So for the short side, I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to disable the short side, and since we're not using the inverter, I'm going to turn the inverter off on both sides just for good measure. And so All right, so we're only going to get long out of this. So let's connect that in there. Right, so there you go. So that you can see we only get longs coming out of this solver here. And I'm going to grab another one. And I'm going to set this inverter up so that we only get shorts only. And so let's turn off the long side, turn everything off, and then on the short side we'll leave it enabled, but we want to turn the invert off. All right, let's check that. Okay, so there we go, short only. Great. So we can set this one aside, and we're going to work with the long only. And so we want to block signals for an hour. All right. And let's see, I believe we're going to need the if-then. The if-then for this guy. Yeah. All right. And since we're using an if-then, we're going to need the long-short modifier here. And let me just finish setting this up. Let's see, addition. All right, so we have the long only. And so coming out of this long-short modifier where it's set, the mode is set to addition, what that does, if we look at BloodHound, so we're getting the long and short out at the same time now. And this long and short out coming out, the reason why we're doing that is for the if-then. We're doing that because we're using an if-then. I'll explain it here in a little bit. And we're going to do the same thing for this short only output. So I need to grab another long short modifier, connect that in. All right, this one's also set to addition. And right, so when the indicator goes short, so remember when the indicator is going short here, we're getting a long and short output at the same time. And again, these are just going to be used for the if-then. And I think I'm actually going to need two if-thens. Yeah. So this is going to be the long if-then, and this is going to be the short if-then. There's some basic structures, and let's see here. So, all right. So let's see. Let me answer the. Let's see. Let's address the easy one first. So we want to allow signals if the indicator goes short. All right, so this one we want to allow signals if it goes short. Let's see, we need to allow for an hour. So I'm going to need to use the signal extender. And one thing to keep in mind that's important, so right, so these conditions here are to be good for an hour. So a time-based bar has to be used in this situation. All right, and that's because the signal extender and basically these function nodes here, the signal extender, the signal counter, the signal blocker, signal counter, signal extender, these operate all on a per bar kind of increment. Right? They don't operate on time-based increments. They operate on per bar increments. So it is important that your chart has to be on a time-based chart in order for, in order to block things for a specific hour. So, let's see here. All right, so the signal extender. So if we're operating on a 1-minute chart, we want to extend for 60 bars. So that'd be 1 hour. See, I'm going to turn all the resets off. And all right, this logic's going to get a little bit long here. All right, so we're kind of getting there. We're starting to get there. So let's see here. We got, so the MACD went short and our signals went out, right, almost an hour. Yeah, well, our signals did go out for an hour. We just didn't get any bar reversals in the last couple of minutes there. Yeah. And then we can see there's no more signals anymore until our indicator went short again. And so then we got another set of signals that went out for an hour. But of course, our indicator went short again. It kept saying, and it extended out for another hour. Let's pull this out like so. Right, so we had 2 overlapping hour of signal extensions because our MACD went short twice here recently. So so we're getting there, but we still have some cleanup work to do here. I take it the way that we want this logic is to operate is that so say when the indicator goes when it goes short like twice real quickly like that, the one that's going to be used is the first time that the MACD goes short. And let me make a copy here. And so the second time the MACD goes short here, we kind of we're going to ignore this, ignore the second time. So we don't want to extend. So we don't want to keep extending the signals out for the second time. We only want to extend the signals out for an hour for this first time here. It's probably how this is going to operate. So we do need to kind of clean this up here a little bit. All right, so I'm kind of thinking of, I'm trying to figure out here how to ignore this second, the second time that the indicator goes short. Trying to figure out, how to ignore this here. Okay. Yeah, all right, so let's see here. We will need to incorporate a signal blocker in this. All right, this is going to get complex. This is just the beginning here. All right, so with the signal blocker, let's see. Oh, actually, I should put the signal blocker back here at the very beginning here. Yeah. I think this will simplify things. So I'm going to stick the signal blocker back here. And now it's a matter of getting our signal blocker set up correctly. So we're going to block for 60 bars. And let's see, we want to block all signals. Yeah. So this block opposite signals, we need to set that to true. So we want to block everything. Yeah, block everything coming out of the signal blocker. So, right, if we had left this to false, if block opposite signals was left false, then if a short signal came in, we'd be blocking short signals for 60 bars, but a long signal would be allowed to pass through. But we don't want any long signals passing through, because that could that could travel through the logic and mess things up. So and also, more importantly, to address how the question's written, if our indicator's long, then we need to block signals for an hour. If the indicator goes short, then we need to allow signals for an hour. Right, there is no exceptions written into this. So block opposite signals, set that to true, and we're going to turn all the resets off. No resets. So all right, so let's take a look at this. All right, yes. So kind of looking at our sketch here, so we can see we got a long, right? Our MACD went long, and so actually, we should be ignoring when the MACD went short, right? And so you can see we are ignoring when the MACD is going short now, because the MACD went long first. And so now we're gonna see that it went long. Yeah, so we want to block signals now for an hour. So that means we kind of ignore what the MACD is doing for the next hour. So we'll actually ignore that. And I'm going to make my little rectangle here an hour long. There. All right, and let's scroll back here and take a look. Okay. Yeah, so just going back a little bit. Going back a little ways, so our indicator went long, and so we're kind of ignoring whether the MACD is, going short or long for that 1 hour period. And then we'll just wait and see what the indicator does. After that 1 hour is expired, we'll see what the indicator's doing. And then just so happens the MACD goes short. So with it being short, we're going to allow signals to come through for this 1 hour. Yep, and then block signals. Okay. All right. We're getting there. Interesting. I thought I made my rectangles an hour long here, but it doesn't look like it. Let's just double check. 9:05, 10:05. Huh. All right, let's shorten that guy up a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I've got a signal extender, right? That's taking our signal and extending it out for an hour, and so we can use this output that's going to be on for an hour to, let's see, we're going to use that. Let's see, we'll need that when the indicator goes short to allow signals for an hour. Yeah. So let's see here. So remember, this is our short output path. And let's see, let's go back here. There we go. So there's the indicator going short for an hour. All right. So for now, I'm just going to throw an AND node in here. Ultimately, I don't think this AND node is going to have to get replaced. Let's get that out of the way for now. Okay, so we're getting there a little bit. So our MACD, our indicator went short, and we're allowing signals through for an hour. Let's see. And all right, so now let's see here. We need to yeah. So now we kind of need to work on the situation when the indicator goes long and blocking signals for an hour. Let's see here. All right, so with the if then, yeah, so instead of the and node, I know that the if then is going to fit into this somewhere, you know, because since, you know, depending if the indicator is long or short, you know, we're doing opposite conditions, right? And so opposite conditions meaning we're blocking signals or we're allowing signals for that hour, depending if the indicator is long or short. So we're going to need an if then to do that. Let's see. So we're getting there. So let's see here. So I take it, you know, I'm going to have to make some assumptions here, but so in this first part here, if our indicator is long, we want to block signals for an hour, but then afterwards, after this hour, then it seems like we need to let these signals through again, right? That, I guess the way this is written, that's what makes sense to me, is we want to allow signals to go through again afterwards, after this 1 hour of blocking is finished. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now. So I'm just kind of thinking through of how we can allow signals through, right? There. So there you go. That just it's my illustration for allowing signals to go through again after our 1 hour of blocking is done here. There. So we get an hour of blocking and then signals through. All right, I'm just going to do some testing here. So let's see here. I'm going to take another signal extender. And let's see. Again, set it up for 60 bars, so that's an hour. Let's turn the resets off. Yeah. And all right, so with that if then, so we can see, right, there's no signals during this 1 hour block of time, and then we get signals coming through afterwards, right? And you'll notice with these if-thens, with the if-thens, our source signal is connected into different points. So when our MACD is long, when our indicator is long, I'm using the else. Right? You can see our source signals is connected into the else. So with that, right, there's no signals when we're blocking during the 1 hour blocking, but outside of that 1 hour block, we're getting signals through. Right? Yeah. But let's see, of course. Yeah, so kind of the next thing I need to focus on is blocking signals here. Right, so our indicator went short, so we want to allow signals through, which is this guy down here. This if then is allowing signals through, but after we're done allowing signals through for an hour, then we want to block signals until our indicator does something here. So yeah, so this part right here, blocking signals after they're allowed through for an hour. Let's see, that's what I need to work on next. Oh, okay, yeah. Let's see, I'm going to just try something out. Let's see, it's not quite working. I'm going to try a different approach. I'm going to try this. Yeah, maybe using some toggle nodes. Instead, that might simplify things. Yeah. All right, so let's see. I'm just going to move this stuff out of the way for now. Yeah, let's just push it back there for now. All right. All right, so let's see. I need to grab a source signal here. There we go. So what I'm kind of thinking I can do with the toggle nodes, right? So with the toggle nodes, you know, I can use these. I can use the signals coming from, you know, from this kind of this long route. You know, so if our indicator goes long, right, we got this long route versus this short route. And so I can use these situations to turn the toggle node on and off. All right, that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. All right, so let me work on, let's see, so when the indicator goes short, yeah, indicator goes short, we're turning the toggle node on. All right, and then after an hour, yeah, so after an hour, so what I can do is I can use this look back node to, let's see here, hold on, let me get things connected up here so you can get a visual reference. Let's see, let's see, I think we want a displacement of 59, I think. We'll figure that out in a moment here. Okay, so, all right, so our indicator goes short, right, and so we have this long short output here to identify when the indicator went short. So I'm going to use this to turn the toggle node on, and then let's see, what shall I call this? Okay, so this look back, we want this look back to provide another signal 1 hour later. Let's see here. Just a sec. All right, so the indicator goes short at 7:09. So at 8:08, okay, no. So we do want to set this to 60. Our displacement is set to 60. So there, 8:09. All right, so 7:09 to 8:09. All right. And that's going to turn the toggle node back off. And turn the toggle node back off. There. All right. So when the indicator goes short, the toggle node is on, which allows signals to go through for an hour. So again, that's always the easy part. Yep, so again, our indicator goes, MACD goes short, signals come through for an hour. All right. So now, incorporating this next part, that's always the tricky part here. All right, so let's grab. I'm going to grab another toggle node, and now we'll work on the side here when the indicator goes long. Let's see. So, quite possibly, I could just set this toggle node up opposite. I think that might work. So I'm setting these toggle nodes up kind of the same. What I did is I reversed the states here. I reversed their modes, and so let's see. No, that's definitely not right. Oh, well, that's because I didn't set my look back here. Let's set this to 60. There we go. There. Okay, that looks correct. All right, so the toggle node is, right, it's blocking when our indicator goes long. It's blocking for that 1 hour period, and it's allowing signals to come through in between. Yeah. No. right, well, this is working. Yeah, so this is working when the indicator goes long. All right, we're blocking for an hour, but again, okay, so I'm kind of left with the same situation of combining the two different situations. All right, I'm just going to do some testing here. All right, I think I might have found a solution here. All right, one last node here. Right, might have done it. Let's see. So now I just need to scroll back to the beginning of the chart. Let's test things out here. Let's see, when's our, need to find our first signal. Okay, there we go. So that's our very first indicator signal on the chart. All right, along there. Okay. Okay, so indicator went long, so we block for an hour. Yeah, block for an hour, and then signals turn on. Great. Turn on, and then the indicator goes short. So then the indicator stays on, or signals come through for an hour. And then the indicator goes long, so it's blocking for an hour. Yeah, let's see here. All right. So it's just going to be helpful to track everything with these rectangles. All right, then our indicator goes long, so we block for an hour. All right, and then signals are allowed to come through again. All right, then the indicator goes long. So we're blocking again. All right, signals go through. And then the MACD goes long again, so we block for an hour. All right, the indicator goes through. I'm sorry, yeah. Signals go through, but then the indicator goes long again, so we're blocked for an hour again. Let's see, then the indicator goes short. Great, so we allow indicators for an hour. And let's see, oh, so there we go. So it's not blocking afterwards. Okay. All right, so we do have a problem. All right, so we should be blocking from that point on. Well, this is a good puzzle, let me tell you. Let's see. Brian's saying he's using the signal blocker. Would that help here? Well, it is in the very beginning. So right after our indicator, that goes long or short, I'm using the signal blocker here. So that way, I only get, let's see, let's connect the signal blocker up. So what happens is I get a signal from the indicator. Actually, let me find a good spot here. Okay, yeah. So you notice here, right, our MACD is crossing above and below the zero line, a couple of times here. So I get it, so the MACD goes long, I get a long signal, and then if the MACD goes below zero, if it goes short, then that's ignored within that 1 hour window, right? So you can see I've got this 1 hour window marked here. So when the MACD goes short, right, I'm not getting any signals because we're blocking everything for an hour. And then once that hour passes, then the next, signal will come through. Whether the indicator is long or short. So anyways, so that's the only point that I'm using the signal blocker. It's just at the very beginning, just to kind of, just to kind of clean up the signals. So we only get signals at a maximum once per hour. So it's once per hour or less. Once per hour or longer, I should say, or longer. So, all right. Yeah. So the tricky part is combining the two different states. That's the tricky part. Yeah, so this is the one spot where the logic isn't working as expected. All right, so so the indicator goes short when we want to allow signals through for an hour, and then after that we want to block. They should be blocking. So, all right, here we go. I might have a solution here. All right, that's working here. So, yeah, let's see. Let's go back here. Let's go back to the beginning and make sure everything's working right. Okay, good. So signals are off, and then they turn back on, and signals are on for an hour, but then the MACD goes long, so signals are off, signals are back on, signals are back off, and then signals are back on. All right, signals are off again, and then they're back on, back off. All right. An hour goes by, signals are back on. All right, and then MACD goes short, so signals are on for an hour, and then they're off. And let's see, MACD went long, so they're off for an hour. All right, so let's see, signals are off and then they're on. Yep, on after that hour passes until the MACD goes long again. All right. Okay, signals are off again for an hour. All right, MACD goes short, so signals are on for an hour. And then they turn off. Great. Yeah, so here's kind of this has been the part of the logic that wasn't working before, but now it looks like it's working good. And then, right, then the MACD goes, MACD goes short. So our signals are on again for an hour. And okay, there we go. So signals are on again for an hour. And great. And then the MACD goes long. So now we want signals off for an hour, and then they turn back on. And let's see a little further down here. All right, the MACD goes short again. So signals are on for an hour, and then they turn back off. All right, yeah, I think it's working. There we go. So just had to get put one little missing piece in there. So let me clean this up here. So those toggle nodes didn't work in this situation. So I'm just going to delete them. Okay, now let's zoom into here. Let's see, we didn't need this end node. So I'll get rid of it. All right. So kind of the one thing that's different here is this OR node into the toggle node here. Let's see. So let's see. Let me rename these toggle nodes here. So so this toggle node is basically set up to allow signals. And that toggle node is set up to block signals there. Sometimes it can be tough to try and choose a perfect name for a solver. So, all right, so let me kind of get back to what I was explaining here. Yeah, so the way I finally got this all to work was controlling this toggle node, which is basically kind of it's not exactly blocking signals, but remember, so when our MACD goes long, we want to block signals. So that's kind of what this toggle node's doing, right? It's set up to operate on the premise that when the indicator goes long, we want to block signals. But at the same time, when the indicator goes short, when the indicator goes short, after that 1 hour period, then we want to block signals again. So I took the signal, or I took the output from the 1 hour mark and also added it to the OR node, right? So when the MACD goes long, we want to block for an hour, but also when an hour goes by, when the indicator is short, after that 1 hour period, we also want to start blocking again. So I took right? So basically what's coming from this look back node is that 1 hour is when that 1 hour period ends and we want to start blocking signals again. So basically what's coming out of this is when we want to start blocking again. So I also connected that into an OR node to get that into this toggle node that's operating to kind of block signals. So, and that is what solved our situation. So, and then of course down in here, that's our source signal right there. So let's just kind of, I'll tidy this up a little bit. Let's see, let's clean this up too. So this AND node is also, so this is, right, the indicator short, to allow signals. And so this is the indicator, long, all right, to block signals. So I'll just kind of leave it at that, and let me take a look at the board, see if there's any follow-up questions on this. All right, so Brian says it looks good there. All right, let's see here. So Brian wants to take a null signal and so Brian, yeah, so Brian, if you want to take a null signal and convert it to a long and short, yeah, for well, I guess you could use that for anything, but for use as a stop, that's what the inverter node would be for. Right, that's what the inverter would be for. So just, yeah, the inverter in its default state is what you do there. Let's see if I have a situation. Let's see if I can, yeah, here we go. I can set up an example here. All right, so let's zoom in here. All right, so we notice, right, we got this little block of time here. Right, this little 2 blocks of time where there's no signal. So if I take a look at the inverter, there we go. We can see with that inverter, BloodHound is now giving us a long and short right there. Again, a long and a short right there. But also, normal signals are inverted as well. So, right, we can see we got a long, right, let's see, BloodHound's giving us a long there, I'm sorry, a short there, and a long there. But if we take a look at the original output coming along, right, we can see the original output was actually a long, but the inverter converted it to a short. Right, same thing here. The original signal is a short, but the inverter converted it to a long. All right, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so let's clean this up. All right, so just to clarify, Brian only wants null signals to be converted. Okay, yep, you bet. So only null signals. Yeah, so let's see, we need, okay, yeah, we need a long, short, long short modifier. And let's see, we're going to put the mode in. We're going to put the mode in product. Yep, product. Right, so product is multiplication. Right, in math terms, the product of something is a multiplication. Yeah, so that cleans it up there. Right. So with the long short modifier, with it being set to product, right, what it's going to do is it'll take, right, the long output. So if there is a long output and no short output, then you take the long output, multiply it by the short output, which is 0, and anything times 0 is 0, right? So if the long output is 0 or the short output is 0, then when you do a product, you get a 0 of, right, a 0 product output. So there we go. All right, so an inverter in its default state, and then just take a long short modifier and set it to product mode. So, all right, if I don't see you guys in tomorrow's workshop, then have a great weekend, and I hope to see you guys next week. Okay, bye-bye, guys.